If you ever felt like you need the external validation, why you hunger for the approval, and why it becomes a trap, and we're going to talk about the attachments and overall general need of acceptance and why you do it and how to break free from it, let's go. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori. Man, am I excited that you're here, and I am excited that we're one day closer to fall. My favorite time of the year. I know if you guys have been with me for a hot minute, you already know fall is my most favorite time. I'm in the Northeast. So October is coming, and I could not be happier. And I'm hoping that you guys are enjoying your summer and staying in the present space. It's the only thing getting me through this hot summer. But I'm so excited to give you this. And let's piggyback on what I just said, that I love fall and I love all of those things. And if you're like, I can't stand it, well, that's fine. But I don't need you to accept that. And this is the most powerful thing that a person can have is acceptance of self and not focusing on the approval and the validation. Now, listen, I have a million different podcast topics, over 200 and some topics. That's going to cover a lot of this as to how you got here, why'd you get here, the attachments. We know this. This isn't brand new that I'm giving you. However, I am packaging it in a way that is just a little bit of a different angle. If you need the worksheet, go over to Patreon, patreon.com/ the positivity experience. You will get a worksheet with every topic that I do here. Now, listen, it isn't fast. So if you're looking for some magic cure in a paper that's going to give you this magic answer and you're going to do it, that ain't it. And it doesn't exist. So the worksheets are only going to be as good as you do the work, and that you're willing to accept it. You're willing to be patient with yourself, but you're willing to be consistent, because looking at it doesn't do a damn thing for you. So if you're not ready to be tired of your own stuff and really focus on that, then it might not be for you. But if you are tired of your own stuff and you want to dig deeper with what you are responsible for, then that might just be the place for you. So pop on over there. You can also find the link in the show notes, which is the description here. You'll also find a link to my podcast. That's my website. That's where you can book sessions with me, or you can also, you can also get the Letting Go workbook. That is a free workbook. Pop on over there. Good. Now, all the housekeeping is done. So I want to go really deep into this. And I know that we talk about it a lot. And if you've been with me for a while, and you'll definitely read it in my book, it is this need to be liked. Now, I'm on the other side of that, but I practice it every day. And it took me a long while to get there, and studying human behavior, human design, why we do what we do, even from back in the day, back in like caveman days. Because what you're going to find is you become like a victim or a prisoner to your own, obviously your trauma, to your own insecurities. Let's get that clear right from the jump. We know that the trauma creates a lot of stuff. We understand that, we accept that, but it is not an excuse for you today. It is a reason that you got here. It is not an excuse for you to stay there. And that's important. And again, this podcast, Patreon, my short form, my YouTube, my individual sessions are not going to be for the person who isn't willing to really grab the bull by the horns and say, it's me, I'm the problem, it's me, and know that that's a good thing. So I say that because until you can say, this was my backstory, this really sucks, this is the deck of cards that was given to me, and it's kind of shitty because everybody else doesn't have that, that's valid. You are 1000% allowed to feel it, and you have to feel it, but you can't live there. So here's the big thing for you. If you're constantly asking yourself, what will they think? Well, you're already betraying yourself. You really are. Here you are, and we've talked about this before. Here you are worried about what people are thinking about you. Well, they can barely tolerate looking in the mirror at themselves, or they have such a limited perspective and it's everybody else but them. Of course, they don't have anything to like work on. It's got to be you. You've got to be the problem. You got to be the issue. So this is something that you're going to have to get clear on, because looking at what they think about you is putting yourself on the sideline, which where you've been for a long while. Either somebody put you there, usually they did, and then you're keeping yourself there by just waiting for this validation, waiting for this approval, falling in love with hope. We already know that. But this is going to show up for you in people pleasing, over apologizing, and feeling like you always have to fix how others see you. 3 big areas. People do not like to hear that people pleasing is manipulation. It is 1,000,000% manipulation. You can frame it any way you want. You can say, yeah, I get it. Growing up, I had to be on my P's and Q's because with an alcoholic, you don't know what you're getting that day. So you're right. You do have to people please. You do have to walk on those eggshells. We know this. But today, this is where you have to say, what am I trying to gain by people pleasing? Why do I worry about what they think about me? Why do I fear if they don't like me or they don't validate me, I'm unlovable? That's where you really want to focus. Now, the over apologizing, my God, don't. Stop that. Here you are. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I can't make it. Well, that's your boundaries. Why are we apologizing for boundaries? Sure, I step on your foot, which I do to the cats probably more than I do people. I'm like, not the stepping, but the apologizing. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Okay, that's fine. You stepped on somebody, you shut their hand in the door. Yes, I'm sorry. One time, you don't have to say 5 years later, oh my God, I am so sorry I slammed your hand in the car door in 1943. Like, why are we doing that? This over apology tour has got to stop. That has got to stop. We are all going to screw things up. We're all going to do something that's going to somehow or another affect somebody else. Okay. If in fact it warrants an apology, and protecting your peace is not warranted an apology at all. Step on somebody's foot? Sure. Have a boundary and somebody doesn't like it? Absolutely not. We are not going to apologize for that. Not now, not ever. So this is where it goes into, okay, if I'm people pleasing, if I'm over apologizing, if I need to, which is also manipulation when you're trying to navigate the idea and fixing how somebody sees you, there is a high level of manipulation there. So even though you're not sitting in a corner going, I'm going to manipulate the situation, it's coming from a place of insecurity. It's coming from those places. So you can be manipulative and not even do it intentionally. It could have been the way that you survived. You had to manipulate certain things so you could feel safe. So that's why you can't get upset about it, but you do have to be aware of it. And that could be ingrained in you for a long time. You could see this going on around you. You could see people worried about their own image. I know you know those people. Oh my God, well, what are they going to think if you get divorced? What? What are you talking about? I'm not worried about how that looks on you. But believe it or not, there's a level of like big time manipulation that comes with worrying about the image that somebody else does something and now they put it on you. It's a big problem. So this people pleasing and the over apologizing, we know is going to come from a lot of things, but this is something for you to be aware of when it comes to acceptance. Because sure, as a community, as people, as humans, we do crave and desire and actually need community. But that doesn't mean you go and you grab on and glom onto somebody for the sake of having this community. Hard pass. Sometimes you got it, most of the time, you have to be the party of one. Until you know who you are, you're going to constantly seek others' approval. And that means you have to be good with being by yourself. It's so funny. I do a live. I do like a TikTok live once a week. Been doing that for years on Sunday. And, somebody had made a comment in there, I guess, about somebody told them that they would be alone. Like, oh, if you keep doing this, you're going to be alone. I'm like, okay, good. Well, hell yeah, good. Why are you fearing being alone? That's a whole different topic. Why are you so afraid to be alone? Why? Because you do not even know who you are. Who do you like? I propose this question. A lot of people have a hard time with this question. I want you to really think about this. Side note. Think of 3 things that you like about yourself. But here's the kicker. It can't be, I'm a good wife. I'm a good mom. I take care of people. No, it's not about anybody else. For me, I'm creative. I'm resilient, right? Look at yourself. Because when you start identifying your value by what you do externally, we know that that's not you knowing yourself whatsoever. And by the way, it's okay to not know those answers right now. If you were born with those answers, you damn sure wouldn't be listening to this podcast at all. You'd be like, know this already, and implementing it, because you can know shit and not implement it too. So you have to understand that there's biological, there's emotional, and even psychological things that kind of play into this. And there's science behind it. See, here's the thing. We get so caught up in the now. Unfortunately, it's good and bad, but unfortunately, we have way too much knowledge at our fingertips. Everything is fast. Everything is I need. Everything is if I get this, I'll be good. I need this right away. Boom, boom, boom. But it doesn't work that way, which is why you have a problem with things not fixing you. Podcasts, books, short forms, Patreons, you have a hard time with them not fixing you because you're not looking at the accountability piece of it, because you want this fast fix. You want the Super Bowl ring. You never one time did anything to deserve said Super Bowl ring. So it's the same thing. So this is why you have to ask yourself, what expectations do I have? Are they rooted in reality? Because they might not be rooted in reality. But you have to remember, so back in the day, back in a gajillion years ago, there's a tribal survival. So think of old brain, new brain. You might have heard this. It's something that you learn a lot in human behavior. So you have your old brain and you have your new brain. Obviously, it's the same brain, but over a period of time, everything else, it's evolution. So old brain, the need of the fear and all of that meant one thing, and it means something a little bit different today. But your brain doesn't go, all right, well, we don't need that old behavior. It's part of your brain. That's what you heard of the critter brain, the lizard brain, survival brain, tribal brain. It's all the same thing. So you have to understand what it is that you're working with, because being accepted meant survival. So if you were accepted, go old brain. If you were accepted, that meant survival. If you were rejected, that literally meant death. So you and your little caveman crew would get together and say, hey, you know what? We might have better bounty if we're all working together. Let's do this because, we got a lot happening. So yes, you were included, you were accepted, and you were doing that because power and safety in numbers. Because if you're by yourself, that pterodactyl could come and eat you. Or somebody could murder you because you killed something and you got the saber-toothed tiger and they want it. So back then, that's what it means. That is not what it means right now. That is not what it means right now. FYI, most of us aren't out in caveman days. We're not trying to get pterodactyls for dinner. We're not out running things. Now, your brain, when you feed your brain, I told you, your brain is so smart and yet so dumb, because our brain believes what you feed it. And it does, your brain goes, this is what our job is. So, we have the hippocampus, we have your frontal cortex, we have your amygdala, all of these things that are different parts of the wheel, different cogs and different, and that's the piece of it that if one of those things goes off the rail, your body goes, yep, time to go. What is happening? We are in trouble. Even if in fact you're really not in trouble. But back in tribal days, like growing up, like I say that like I was there, but when you were younger, let's say growing up, and even go out of caveman days, go into the next different eras, you had to have a squad, because if not, you were going to be taken out. Do not think that that's the same thing now, because it isn't. So you have your ACC. That's your anterior cingulate cortex. So that is going to process your social rejection. So social rejection can be like physical pain. So your brain is wired to avoid rejection at all costs. So often, I don't know, you're not included. Now, mind you, take that, which is already like science, it's already part of your brain, but now magnify that by insecurities, attachments, trauma. So magnify that. So it already exists just from being a brain. So that's already one thing. So let's add to that the fact that everything else comes into play. Well, now everything compiles, and there's like this big giant spotlight on top of that says, oh my God, we are definitely in trouble. So social rejection, so let me Okay, my ADHD brain wants to tell you 48 things right now. So I had to, if you have ADHD, you get that. You have to take a deep breath, balance it, and never be embarrassed or make excuses for the fact that you just had an ADHD moment. It happens. Own it. So the important piece of this, yes, your brain is wired to think that rejection is equal, social rejection is equal to pain. That's how your brain is. However, you don't have to listen to your brain. You don't have to go, well, I'm a prisoner to this brain, because your brain's going to lie to you a lot. Your brain, especially if anxieties or depressions, your brain's going to say, this is how we feel. Well, you can't hold on to that. So that's why you have to remember, no is not rejection. See, we hear no as rejection. If I said to you right now, do you like every single body? Do you like everybody that you meet? Everybody. Do you like them? Probably going to say no. Well, guess what? That doesn't make them bad people. Okay, so maybe it's just not the people you want to be around. Just because you don't like someone, just because you don't vibe with somebody, doesn't mean that everybody else won't. So this is the important factor. And then ego, bring ego, come on to the table, ego, bring your ego to the table. And this exacerbates it 100 times more. I can't believe they said that they didn't like going out, but now they're with these people and they go out just fine. So now you start that, because your ego will cloud your mind on a very regular basis. Regular. So you have your oxytocin, and your dopamine. We talked about dopamine last week. So when these things release during moments of acceptance, so think of that like, yay, me, that reinforces the belonging behavior. That becomes addictive. To have that, it does. There is an addiction. Addiction isn't always a substance or a thing or a food. No, your brain likes what it likes. We talked about that at the dopamine one last week. Period. That's why people spend way too much freaking time on the social media. Stop it. And you're seeking that, right? You're seeking that next find. So the moment that, you feel included and we're doing all of those things, your oxytocin goes up, your dopamine's like damn straight, and you want more of that, because what feels good, we want more of. I mean, that's just a human design. But sometimes that's not always going to be healthy or safe for you. Now, let's go into attachments. My most favorite thing to talk about, and probably that and ego and boundaries are probably my biggest specialties if you put them all into one place. Very, very important, because these all are going to go hand in hand. So you have your secure attachment, which is where you want to get to. Took me years to get there. So again, stop with the whole, I got to get there fast. You're not going to get there fast. Just wrap your little head around that right now. Wrap your big head around that right now. It doesn't matter. You've got to stop thinking things are fast. I don't care that you want it faster. It doesn't work that way. Period. So an anxious attachment, go back, I have a gajillion things on attachment theory. But the anxious attachments, they're hyper vigilant about acceptance. I need this, because if I don't have this, I'm less than. If I don't have this, I'm going to be alone. The fact that you're in fear of being alone, fear of, kind of walking this path alone for a while, that lets you know that you're in anxious attachment. You're so worried about somebody leaving, you're willing to people please, hence manipulation, because your insecurity and your anxious attachment doesn't want to feel uncomfortable. So you're willing to do anything that you need to do to get them to like you. Well, anytime you're doing something that you have an agenda of getting somebody to like you or not having a certain thing, that is manipulation. And again, nobody said that you're intentionally sitting in a corner to manipulate the things. It could have been part of your survival brain and where you are today. So just be aware of what it is. And when you have that anxious attachment, the rejection can feel like abandonment trauma replaying in real time. So think of it like this. If you weren't accepted at 5, I don't know, you felt neglected, you felt unloved. And again, at 5, you're not logically going, well, I see mom doesn't have the wherewithal. No, you're not. You don't have that. You're still relying on people to feed you and clothe you and house you. But because you didn't have that at 5, you keep seeking it at 30, at 50, at 70. because you're hoping that that heals the source. Well, guess what happens? When you avoid your triggers, I told you this before, your inner children are the ones suffering, and you're doing that, nobody else. So those kids might, all of these parts of you, those kids, those young adults, those early adults, yesterday's adult, will suffer because you allow them to suffer because you keep avoiding the triggers. So when you know that you're dealing with anxious attachment, you know that your whole life, anytime, if you've ever heard somebody say, I can't live without that person, my God, that is attachment at its highest levels. So what you have to know is if you have anxious attachment, that's not something to be upset about. That's not something to feel shame for. It's just part of how you got here. There's a lot of reasons we have anxious attachment. There's a lot of reasons why we have avoidant attachment. You want to go to secure attachment. That's where you want to get, and it's not going to be overnight. So if you feel like you were abandoned at 5, or you felt unloved, or however you saw it, then until you heal it, which is your responsibility. Yes, you didn't ask for it at 5, but here you are at 30. Are we going to keep waiting? Because nobody, I know you've heard this with Brene Brown, nobody's coming to save you. It's a Brene Brown statement. And by the way, she won't own it, so we can all use it, but it's true. Nobody is coming to save you. But at the end of the day, if you keep avoiding your triggers, if you keep avoiding the fact that this relationship might not be good for you, so don't hold on to it for the sake of having somebody breathing oxygen in your same circle. You can live with people, you can be with people and be the loneliest you've ever been in your life. Or you can be by yourself, and you could be hiking, or you could be at the beach, or whatever your desire is, and feel super connected. So a warm body doesn't always fix it. Childhood conditioning and identity. This is where things form. And I don't know, I think you go through, or at least I went through, I should say, especially during my whole victim mindset for many years of everything, mom passing, living in a van, blah, 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 molestation. Yeah, I mean, you know the stories. If you don't, hi, welcome. Go back and listen to 80,000 of them and you'll see what I mean. And it really is an interesting thing because at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, even 15, sometimes 29, you have this idea that these people, and let's call them your parents, your caregivers, maybe it's a pastor, maybe it's whomever, a teacher, you tend to put them on a little bit of a pedestal or a different level than you are because you don't know any better. You are included in school. You're included into, unless you're a nerd. I was a nerd. And of course, people knew a lot about the drama in my family. So nobody's kids could hang out with me. So now I'm ostracized. Now I'm a nerd, and I have all of these things, so it's like one thing after another. Chronic rejection. But of course, at 7, I'm not like, I'm good, I have confidence. Of course not. Your brain isn't even formed to know that. And again, as you grow older, you're still chasing that acceptance. That's why you're people pleasing. That's why you're willing to do anything it takes to be accepted. If you have enormous amounts of money, what are you doing with it? Are you trying to buy people, or are you enjoying spending your money? Because, I mean, you can't sit on money. That's not going to do you any good. Are you doing something with your money or with your platform? Because I don't care if you told me you have 87 gajillion trillion dollars and you're like not doing anything productive or valuable with that money. I mean, you can have your money. I don't really respect it. And I don't have to, because I'm not judging you. I'm just observing it, and I don't want it around me. So it's if I'm not respecting it, you can do whatever you want, but you're just not going to be around me. And I'm not going to dedicate any time towards that. So this is important because if you have money and you want to do something good for people and you're doing it because you care, but you're not doing it with the idea of acceptance, that's a whole different ballgame. That's a great thing. That's a great thing. Share it. Share it with the people who you know are valuable to you. That's great. But don't do it with the idea that you have to do that in order to be accepted. See, that's where that fine line goes into play. So when love comes when you are good or impressive. So think of this, and we've talked about this before. You'll get extra love. Like you feel as though you get extra love if you got that A on that test. Good job. Great job, which is great. It is a good job. But what about if you get a 74? And now listen, if you just sat home, you didn't really do anything like most of us, then yeah, I mean, I could see somebody being like, man, try a little harder next time. That's fine. But it's the perfectionism, because perfectionism is fake. Oh, well, you got to do this, and you're only worthy if you do that. You're so well behaved. Oh my God, that is the worst one. Oh, you're so well behaved. So now you get praise when you're well behaved. But if you have a voice, if you start having boundaries, then you're rude, you're selfish, you're ignorant. I mean, again, there's a script. So in that moment, when you're going through that script, you have to remember why people are saying that to you in the first place. So if rejection happened when you were a little messy, if you were loud, honest, or had needs, well, now you're going to have a really hard time with your own identity. Because now you're going, okay, well, should I have a feeling about this? I mean, this is how I feel about it. If you go back to the religious trauma podcast I did, and I probably need to redo it because some people asked me to do it again, but it's true. And listen, you believe whatever you want. This is me in my experience, but also in science. It doesn't have to be religion. It could be anything else. When someone is telling you what you need to believe, and if you don't believe it, it is a problem. Anything, not just religion. That is going to form in your brain as if you're wrong for having questions, or you're wrong for wanting something different. And now there's like this kind of thing that comes into play, like, well, if you want my acceptance, you got to do things this way. That's totally different than a boundary. A boundary is, oh, this is for me. So yes, maybe, I'm a very spiritual, not religious person. I grew up Southern Baptist. We know my story. But I am very spiritual. I have my crystals, I do my cards, I do all of that. I don't really care what anybody thinks about it. It doesn't bother me. So you unlock a whole new level of confidence when you find something you believe in, and it does not matter what anybody else thinks about it. And it truly doesn't. But then you have to ask yourself, why does it matter? And I'm going to ask some questions later on because I think it'll be beneficial for you to kind of sit with. Now, this what this does is the nervous system says my true self-expression is bad, because if I have true self-expression, once I figure out what that is, somehow or another there's a threat. There's a threat of leaving. There's a threat of, you have to do this in order to have. And then now you go on this whole, like I said, people-pleasing tour. Now you have your fawn response. So we have, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fawn, people pleasing. Just know that. So you have your fawn response. And when you have a fawn response, you're self-abandoning. Now, keep it real. You might not know who the hell you are. And good chance you don't. If you're seeking acceptance, then you don't know who you are. And that is okay, because you might not have ever been told how you can discover it. Not what you should be, not who you should be, how to discover it. That most of us didn't have those tools. Most people weren't like, okay, so here's some emotional regulation for you. And no, how could they give you that when they didn't have the tools in the first place? Very important to ask yourself, because you're trying to please people who can only see things from a limited mindset, which I have a full podcast on, a limited mindset. And then you need their approval because you were told this is what you need in order to be loved. So now you're abandoning yourself and you don't even know who the hell that is. So when your nervous system develops this fawn response, it's avoiding punishment. So children are definitely overcorrected, criticized, or neglected. That means that they're going to become adults who seek this validation of being enough. This is why, now listen, people are humans. And let me tell you, you're going to screw your kids up. Stop trying to be perfect. I don't care what you do, how you do it. Your kids somehow or another are going to see some level of trauma. You're just going to have to accept that and let that go. At this point, you just want to traumatize your kids a little bit less than what you were, because you may think you're dotting every I and crossing every T, but they may take it totally different. And that is okay, because everybody's individual. So when you're going into this people pleasing and you don't want to be criticized and you were overcorrected and everything, well, guess what's going to happen? Now you have to make sure that you're being okay. Am I overcorrecting enough? Is it too much? Am I this or is it too much of this? Is it not enough? Now you start this. And I know this is a lot of you. This was me. This is a lot of you. A lot of you who are my clients are still going through this. Until you accept that this is a lifelong journey. It is not fast. It is not supposed to be fast. It's not everybody else. It is you. How much effort are you going to put into being 70 to 75% to 80% on a regular? Not 100%, because some days you're going to kill it. You're going to be like, damn, I am killing it today. And other days you're going to have like 4% to give to yourself. So this is why you aim for about 75 to 80%. Then you have that, oh my God, shame. Shame is so non-productive. It is, nobody's ever shamed themselves into being better people. And shame is a super high level of control. So shame is basically, I must change to be worthy. So until I change, until I do A, B, C, D, F, G, I should be ashamed of myself because I'm not quite worthy yet. Their approval is my safety. So in shame, you're saying their approval is my safety. So now you just took every bit of power you had, you gave it to somebody, because let's go back to 5 years old. You didn't have anything. You didn't have anybody. You felt that way. So see, this is the vicious cycle. So when you start to understand it, you're definitely not beating yourself up. You're not judging it. Don't blame anybody else. You're here today. But you can see that there is this cycle. This becomes the chicken and the egg. And that piece of it, it's hard too, I think, because you want to feel good. You want to feel empowered. You want to feel these things, but yet you're doing it with the idea that it's somebody else's responsibility to give that to you. And quite frankly, you just don't know anything else. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be scary. It's going to be okay with losing people who really, quite frankly, people are not objects anyway. And you're sitting here worrying about somebody who is super conditional. So unless you perform at the top tier, you have a problem. You're the problem. Just like having a boundary. Oh, what are you doing here? Like what? You're upsetting the apple cart. I don't like this. I'm good. And remember this too. You're on this part of your journey. You might be brand new here. Well, guess what? No matter how old you are, 40, 20, 90, I don't care. It's taking you that long to get there, number one. But number two, people have been conditioned. This is not them being bad or you being bad. If they have been conditioned to be allowed to do something, people are going to continue to do that. That is just how brains are wired. So it's about switching it up, changing it up. Not everybody likes change, especially when they don't feel comfortable or safe in that moment. So that's your shame wiring, which is why you have to be really careful of allowing yourself to be shamed. Now, there's some costs, by the way, to this approval seeking. There's all, remember, yin and yang. There's never a one side to everything. There's always two. So if you're filtering and shrinking your identity, first and foremost, we have to know what your identity is. So this might not even be part of the podcast that you need right now because you're still having to figure out who the hell you are. Who is your identity? That is not meant to be fast. That is going to take time. But listen to this anyway, and then you can always come back and bounce to it. Because there is a massive cost at approval seeking. So you censor your opinions. Okay. If you are like, exactly what I just said. Oh, I love fall. It's one of my favorite things. I post it on my Insta stories. And you could be like, oh my God, I just can't with this fall thing and or whatever it is, yarn or anything for that matter. Well, I'm not going to censor that. I'm not going to censor it because you don't like it. I'm not going to censor it because you say, oh, don't do that. I'm not censoring it. So you have to ask yourself, why are you censoring your opinion? Why are you censoring that? Now, it's a little different than projecting it on other people. So it could be, I'm just using fall because it's such a high level topic. This can go way deeper to religion, to politics, everything else, but we're keeping it high level right now. I'm going to continue to be me, and this is how it's going to be for me. You don't have to like fall. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do any of that. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm saying that this works for me. But let's say you, and I'm just using fall. Honestly, it could be anything else. You were like, oh, I don't want to do that because I know this person can't stand this because that's when their trauma happened, or stop doing that. If you have an opinion, and be careful of the opinion on projection, But when I say censor your opinion, it's if you're asked for an opinion, then you give it. And then somehow or another, you're wrong for giving the opinion that somebody didn't want. You're like, then don't ask me. You also dilute. So you can't dilute yourself. You're diluting your boldness to be palpable. No. What the hell are you doing? Why are you diluting yourself? Assertion is always going to look rude, aggressive, any other adjective to people who don't have it and people who aren't used to you having it. If you're second guessing everything you do based on their reaction, my goodness, this is like everybody that's listening to this podcast. This was me, not anymore. And I'm really happy to be on the other side. On the other side of messy is still messy, but you're not letting the mess control your life. It's beautiful on the other side, but until you're ready to be repetitive, stop seeking the next thing. Stop seeking the next feeling. Listen, it's part of healing. If you're not ready to sit there in repetition and talk about the same thing over and over again, now you can talk about it all day long, but let's say you're taking action in it. Well, got to keep action. You can't say, I did this for 2 weeks. Let's go move forward. No, if you could do it by yourself, you wouldn't need help in the first place. It doesn't work so well when you're impatient. It didn't work then. It's definitely not going to work now. So you have to remember that their reaction is not your responsibility. Of course, vice versa. Your nervous system becomes very codependent. Very codependent. And this goes into attachments again. So if you monitor others' cues to feel emotionally safe, this is where you understand what's going on. Wow, this is a me thing. Because you're going into this to say, oh, this is keeping me emotionally safe. But it's really not keeping you emotionally safe. You are allowing yourself to be imprisoned by a person that you want to make you feel like you're enough because that's all you've known, but yet they're not even enough for themselves. If you can't stop proving, pleasing, or perfecting, that's how you know that it's performative. You are performing. You are in performance. So when you're creating the hypervigilance, the burnout, and the resentment, that will come. This will come. When you're seeking acceptance, you will have resentments. My God, you'll have burnout. And you will be ultra hypervigilant. But the validation becomes this drug, right? It's like, oh, it's this dopamine and you're seeking it. And it's like, yeah, that's just, again, how the brain is wired. Don't take it personally. Very important. And understanding that it's a lot of it is science is great, but you can't live on that either. You can be like, well, just how my brain is wired. We'll talk about that in a minute because that's going to come into play too. And if you're trying to prove yourself, this is where ego comes in again. If you're pleasing and if you're perfecting, it's not just that you want to be accepted. It's that you feel unsafe without it. So you say you want to be accepted, but somehow or another you feel unsafe without that acceptance. So you're willing to chase that acceptance, abandon yourself, make yourself smaller. This is what you're doing. That becomes a really big problem for yourself. And you're literally saying, you get to tell me how I am. And, oh, I said this and this is how I felt. But now somebody told me this isn't how I felt because now they're gaslighting you because they didn't like how it made them feel. But you don't always have the wherewithal until you're on a certain part of your healing journey. That's not going to come right away. So there's a lie of, if I'm enough, they'll approve me. Oh my goodness. We could spend 87 hours on this topic. We're not gonna. But approval is not this objective. It's based on other people's trauma, preferences, projections, experiences. You got to stop doing that because you're looking at approval as it's like this one big thing. But this also goes for you. Based on your your responses when you were little, your experiences, that's how you're going to see things. This is why it takes emotional maturity to look outside of yourself, to take a bird's eye view, step back and look at it from the top and go, oh, well, that's just how I see it. That's not, and don't let your ego be like, well, they're wrong. No, they see things differently. If it doesn't align with you, you don't have to rock with it, but don't try to sit there and beat your head against the wall and try to figure out why. Now, you could show up as your best self, and then you're still going to be disliked because you remind them of something that they avoid. Absolutely. This is that mirror. They need you to stay small for them to feel safe. And your boundaries threaten their comfort. We know this already. This isn't new. This isn't rocket science. But if you are, and this is something you have to remember, when a person judges, and let me tell you, I was one of the most judgmental people on the planet in my teens and early 20s. I literally don't judge anybody. And before you go, everybody judges. No, everybody doesn't judge people. I observe. I observe. Does this serve my best and highest good? Is this something I believe in? Is this something I want to surround myself with? Yes or no? Yes, cool. No, I don't have to figure out why. I'm not going to get triggered by your stuff. You're just not going to be around me. I'm not going to engage with you. I'm not going to give you any time. I'm not going to give you space. I'm just not going to do that. But I'm not judging you. I'm observing. Problem is people judge, right? When somebody's judging you, they're not observing you. Well, they are. They're observing the fact that they can't control you. They're observing that. So then their insecurity goes into super high gear. Needing to be accepted by others is going to lead to rejection of self every single time. There's no scenario, so stop negotiating. There's no scenario where you're not self-abandoning. Just not happening. So when you're seeking this, you have to remember most people don't accept themselves. They don't. So you're chasing acceptance from somebody who doesn't even accept themselves, and they're looking for you to make them feel better. It's just this vicious cycle. So you got to rebuild your internal referencing. Here's a great question to ask yourself. You got to sit real honest. And I'm going to go way deeper in this over on Patreon on the worksheet. If that's your jam, like go on over there and subscribe and get it. But you need to ask yourself, would I still respect this decision if no one was clapping for it? Ask yourself that question. Would I still respect this decision? Would I still do it if nobody was clapping for me? That's how you're going to build your like self-acceptance without self-policing. You got to stop self-policing. Should I? Shouldn't I? Should I? Shouldn't I? They're going to be mad? How's it going to feel? No. You have got to normalize discomfort. Discomfort and failure and accepting the unknown are your 3 pillars to be a better version of yourself and live happy-ish, because there's no such thing as just living happy at all times. So you have to allow their disapproval. It might feel like a little itch or it might feel like a little ick. That's okay. It's uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous. So they don't like you. Your feelings get a little hurt. You feel a little like you're under a spotlight. You're not in danger. You're fine. Very important. Then you have to train your body to stop interpreting lack of applause as a threat. So if you're not including in on something, that's not a threat. You're just not included. Unless you're 5 years old listening to this in kindergarten, everybody doesn't deserve a cupcake. We're not all going to little Johnny's birthday party. They might not like you. People often don't like what they see in somebody else that they don't have within themselves or that they don't like within themselves. Very important. And here's an amazing thing. Break out your 5 journals. 5 journals are my jam. Break out your negativity journal, whichever one you want, and ask yourself this question. Who taught me I had to earn acceptance? Okay, again, we'll go deeper on this, but who taught me I have to earn acceptance? What did I fear would happen if I wasn't liked? What did I fear? And even ask yourself today, what do I fear by not being liked? Then you have to set your standard. I will not betray myself to be digestible. And who cares if they're digesting you? Ooh, it doesn't matter. Who cares? They can digest themselves. They can choke on whatever thing that they want to choke on. They'll need to digest you. They don't need to like you for you to matter. Let me repeat that. They don't need to like you for you to matter. And I don't care who it is, if it's family, if it's whomever. Acceptance is fleeting. Acceptance is always going to be fleeting, but alignment is permanent. You can have relatives that aren't family. You can have family that's not relative. So when you align with something, that's more important, even though everything in life is impermanence, but that's more consistent. That's safety. Acceptance isn't. Very important, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to keep chasing that. Then when you accept yourself, rejection stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a filter. Because when you start going, oh, this is so interesting. This is when they're active, or this is when this is happening, and you're aware of it. Oh my God, that's like this whole new superpower. Now, they may misunderstand you, but that doesn't mean that you're wrong. It means that you've outgrown the performance. They don't have to understand you. They don't have to know your why, and you don't have to go on a tour to tell them. It's so important because the more you gain this clarity, and you may know this in logic, but you got to be uncomfortable. You have to be willing to let them get in the last word. 2 plus 2 is 97. Fine. You're an ass because you don't. Okay. Stop going on this big, I don't know, this big survival hunt because you're trying to make that happen. No, it's just not a good scenario. And, like I said, Brene Brown, I just love her. I think I really adore her. She has this authenticity and vulnerability as an antidote to shame. And I think it's amazing. And Kristen Neff, I always say Neff, has on self-compassion regulates your fear of judgment. So these are all things that you have to remember you're in control of, and you may not have ever thought that you were in control because you might have been told you're being selfish, you're doing this, and only, you can't be all about yourself and self-absorbed, yada, yada, yada. All these things are going to come into play with people who don't like the outcome. So you really need to get clear with, why do you realize, or why do you think and not realize that if you look in the mirror, that's the person who has to accept you. And that is okay if you're not there yet. You don't have to be there right now. I'll get you there. Just take time. It's patience. It's really asking yourself, why would I sacrifice myself once I know myself? So that's the first thing. What do I need to do to know myself? Because learning yourself means that you're definitely going to leave some people by the wayside. Tell you, like I tell every client I get, every new client, the people who start on your journey aren't always going to end up on your journey. And that's okay too. So as you're going into, the next part of your day, the next part of your healing, you have to say, is my ego coming to the table? What part of my attachments are there? Is there a level of people pleasing and manipulation that I am doing? But you're compassionate because you're not sitting in a corner doing this on purpose. It's going to take you time. It takes time, but that means you have to be consistent. You have to make effort. You have to go forward. You have to go backwards. But don't abandon yourself because it's not fun anymore. Don't abandon yourself because you're not seeing the progress anymore. So love who you're looking at. And that's the person, the only person on the planet that needs to accept you is the person looking right back at you from the mirror. And that's what you want to focus on first, foremost, and always.